Hi guys, I'm here with the beautiful Marta. We are going to have a very interesting conversation about self-love.
Self-love, authenticity, and being compassionate to yourself and living your life that's true to yourself.
All right, so if you're not already excited, you should be now. Yeah, this next video is for you. We wish you a lot of fun watching it. See you there.
See you there.
Hi Marta,
Hi.
how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you. How are you?
Wonderful. I'm very happy because I
I'm
have
so excited to be here doing this with you and
100%.
see what comes out.
100%. So you are a model. That has been your background for a long time. You worked for Gucci, Chanel, the big brands, many, many more that I cannot, remember from the top of my head right now. But that has been, a huge part of your life. But now you are into something that you have a very interesting name for, and I would like to hear more about this. What is currently going on in your life?
Where do I start? Oh my God. So the awesome name that I came up with, personal brand,
Mm-hmm.
the Marta Morphosis.
Marta Morphosis.
Marta Morphosis.
Love that.
You know what? The transformation butterfly thing has been a thing for me in the past 7 years. So the butterfly's been following me and the butterfly story. And you know what makes it special for me? I've actually been to a couple of years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I've been to a butterfly farm
Okay.
for the first time in my life. And I was in the middle of my death and rebirth process.
Oh, wow.
And I actually saw for the first time in my life how it's done, how they do it. I've seen the little cocoons, like this little farms, the boxes, and the cocoons on different stages of development, from very small that just form to the grown ones, to mature ones, and to the ones where the butterflies are emerging. And I've seen so many of those butterflies. What amazed me is that now that I've been through my metamorphosis, I kind of there's this analogy for me for my life and for human life in general. As we start out as a caterpillar in this world where we get conditioned by our environment, where we grow up and it shapes our holy wounds, they say that, right? And then we crawl until the time comes and it's time for us to say, okay, this is not who I am. And it's time for me to go on this journey.
And when was that for you? When did this thing happen where you're like, okay, now I have to evolve and transform into something different. I want to.
That was when I turned 30. I think it's a magical mark for many people, isn't it? When you turn 30, you go into this process. I think many people do it at this particular mark, 30 years old, right? It was for me, for sure. I turned 30 and I realized I was modeling, but I was kind of like slowly, I don't want to say retiring, but at that point of my life, I was in a huge inner conflict with the whole industry. Even though I started out, I loved it. I loved the process of being in front of the camera, shooting, of traveling, of meeting people, of creating. I'm a very creative person. And then throughout the process, and I've been modeling for a long time, just because I didn't really know who I really am and I didn't really know how to do life, I got so lost doing the things I didn't want to do. So many of the things I didn't want to do, so many of the projects I didn't want to do, even though I was making really good money at that time. I just hated everything I did. I hated. I started to hate my job. I started to hate the industry. I started to hate all of it. And 30 years old, I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. I have to find out who I really am, what I really want.
What got you into this in the first place?
Misery, isn't it for everybody like that? Or you mean, what do you mean? The
Oh
process?
no, I mean not into modeling at
Oh,
first.
into modeling.
Yeah.
Into
I
modeling.
think at the beginning it might not be misery. At the beginning it might be
No.
like flashy, cool.
No, I
Yeah.
was discovered when I was 13 at school.
Yeah.
And then there was a couple years of beauty pageants and like beauty contests until I think I was 17. No, my first professional modeling contest was at 15. Elite Model Look. It was a huge one.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still exist.
Yeah.
But they're all over the world.
Yeah.
So I did that when I was 15. And when I turned 18, I lost my mom, and that's when I just like, okay, I'm gone. And I'm just gonna go and work and do whatever. I run away.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed doing it. I mean, I was far away. I was an 18 years old kid. I was this entire new world opened up for me. So many people, so everything like a fairy tale became accessible to me. So, and I was a kid, and I was just for first few years, I was really enjoying it.
That is okay. Let me ask you something, because I mean, you also do some acting, right? So, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor, but my self-confidence was not allowing that. And I would have loved to do that, but I would have not felt comfortable in front of the camera. So you being discovered at 13 years old, then, doing beauty pageants and all that kind of stuff by 15, did it feel natural to you? How did you how did you muster up the courage? Because I think many people, would be like, oh my God, just like walking in front of other people. And especially if you're young, I think there might be some secrets to that. Or what was your approach to this?
When you're a kid, you're just kind of following the flow. I think that's what that's what it was like for me. It was exciting. I was a kid. And for me, when I'm excited, that's pretty much all I need, right? To say it wasn't scary, yes, it was. To walk in front of the audience of people, however many people, anxiety, alert.
And how did you deal with that? Like, did you have, okay, so there's 3 types of people. There's people that are anxious during, anxious before, or anxious after.
Before, during, and after.
No way, really? Wow. So you just like marched on, or did you have like any coping mechanisms that like kind of like brought you down to earth?
You're anxious before, but when you go into it, it's like you get this adrenaline rush. And when you're in the middle of it, you don't really you're there. You can't crumble. So you're just doing it on adrenaline. You must know this feeling.
Yeah.
You know it.
I do.
Yeah, this you're in alert. You're in the fight mode, right? So that's how you go through it.
You make modeling sound like there's this quote from Mike Tyson. He's like, okay, I was nervous before the fight a little bit, and then when I stepped in the cage, I was a god. And he also had this adrenaline. Once he was there, he was in the zone. So it sounds like you have quite a bit in common with fighting and boxing in that sense.
I think, I don't know. And I can't, to be fair, to be honest with you, I can't remember that well, that part of my life, because also I feel like it wasn't really who I was, who I am. Because my journey of getting to know myself started 30 plus. So at that time, I feel like I was just getting through life somehow by listening, following others. That was my first 30 years of my life, following others. Well, actually, you can say 35. But 30 on, a little more conscious.
Interesting.
But I grew up, I was raised to be a good girl That's a common syndrome of a lot of people I know. And when you're raised to be a good girl or good boy, you're basically, that's how I see it, you're raised to follow.
Yeah.
Follow
rules, whatever society expects from you, all that. Okay. So
that's why I at 30 I was so lost, because I was following, yet I couldn't find peace in my heart. I lost the joy that I had in the beginning when I started modeling and traveling and all that, and all this big adventure that I went on. I lost all of it because I was just following, not doing what I like, not listening to myself, but just following what other people wanted. And I completely lost it. I became very miserable and lost. And to the point where I couldn't do it anymore.
I think it's beautiful that you have that experience, because so you started modeling at basically 13, 15, started, going on these pageants. Then you over your career, walked for super big brands, and had all this excitement. So in the beginning, from like 13 to later on, like there was this traveling, all this new stuff, and you're like, okay, this is what people dream of, and I'm doing it. What a fairy tale! How crazy! And then kind of like reality sinks in. And you have seen this as the option before. For you, it sounded like, okay, that's the perfect way to go, and I should be grateful. And I understand that there might be actually some resistance, because you're like, hey, I'm living the life, but now why do I feel the way I feel? Because it might just not be my life. It's just something that was on the menu for me.
Which makes you feel even worse.
Yeah.
How come do I have all of these things and I'm still miserable?
Yeah. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's fantastic that you actually went on this journey and like of self-discovery. Because even with like entrepreneurs that have made millions and millions of bucks, they might just find themselves in a situation, or people that are just generally rich, maybe generational wealth, whatever that might be. They have all the money to spend, all the experiences to do, but then after all that's gone, like, what do you do with your life? What is my passion? Who am I as a person? What else is out there that I cannot buy, right? So we're now in your metamorphosis, right? So we transition from your professional background into, how you self-discover yourself and your life. So how is that journey?
Still in it.
You're still in it.
But it's become very exciting now. I'm actually allowing myself to let go more of the old self and discover more of the new self, which is scary because, you don't know this new person, right? It's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Not comfortable. Lots of unknown space.
And how do you do that? How do you let go of your past beliefs and implement new ones? What's your approach?
Honestly, I can't say that in my personal way. I feel like I'm a little bit hard-headed. Some, like, for example, in relationships, it took me to fall down to the lowest of the low, and I would probably still not let go if life sort of just didn't rip me out of there. For me, it was, you don't want to do it yourself? Here, you have no choice now.
Wow. Yeah.
For me, it was like that.
People are so crazy. They have to hit rock bottom. They're like the situation they're currently in must be so much harder than the option B, which is beneficial for them. Actually, it must be so much harder in order to trigger yourself out of it. So in that sense, I think life is beautiful because it gives you these challenges. It shows you like, no, this is just not for you. It's not your path, not your way. Wake the fuck up. So I think it's beautiful that you had these.
You don't know the other one, and you don't know. It's not I mean, who's going to give you a guarantee if there's anything any better for you? You know, this is all you know. This is who you know.
Yeah.
This is what you know.
Yeah.
And to let go, to lose that without any guarantee of gaining anything better, that's crazy.
That is, but there's actually an interesting technique by Jeff Bezos. He calls it the regret minimization framework, where he says, okay, looking back at the age of 80 on my past life, would I regret not having taken this decision? So if you're uncomfortable or if you know this life, but something is off, you don't feel like you're fulfilled, I think the risk, and this is what so many people are not aware of, the risk of you staying in that environment and being unhappy for the rest of your life because you settle, because you're afraid, it's so much bigger than just jumping into uncertainty. Because let's face it, life is uncertainty. We all gonna die at some point. We never know when. You could step out the door, boom, car, it's done.
True.
So yeah, I mean,
True bomb.
right? Boom, and boom, right there.
Yeah.
Wake the fuck up, people. No, it's really that. So I do think it takes a great amount of bravery to change who you are as a person, to go out of your comfort zone. But I think actually, if you look at it that way, it's even braver to stay in a situation that you're truly unhappy with, to stay in that reality. And maybe to give you some background about me. So, there's growth mindset and fixed mindset. Growth mindset is, you have the idea that you can overcome everything with enough effort. And fixed mindset is just like, okay, this is who I am as a person. That's just me. And that's what I thought about myself, like pre-18 years old, or even a little past 18. And then I discovered, the fact that you can actually change your mindset. You can actually, through self-control, change who you are, change how you react to certain stimuli, and, change your surroundings, change all these things and become another person, become a person that you much rather like to be. This magical creature that you always envisioned, this perfect version of yourself. And I don't think it's about being the perfect version of yourself, but seeing that it's attainable to go in that direction. So yeah, I think it's wonderful to understand that for oneself. And once you've done that, and tasted the first sweet fruits of success, may it be something easy, for example, or let's say you're afraid of heights, and then you go, you're like, okay, I cannot live with this any longer, and you face it. You go on the bridge, and you actually allow this, this feeling to come to you, and allow these negative emotions, and then grow from that, and all of a sudden you're not afraid of heights anymore and can live your life more to the max. Like these tiny little things, right? What was one of these experiences for you where you're just like, okay, now I'm working on myself and now things have changed to the better?
Just recently. So, you're playing the game with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the transformational game.
My transformational game. Last year, I've become a facilitator of a transformational game,
Let's explain real quick what this is.
So last year, as a part of my metamorphosis, which I've done quite a few things. I mean, I've used different tools on my healing journey. I like to learn, so I've been digging a lot into psychology and philosophy and all of that, I had this hunger to feel better, I just felt miserable. And so I was digging and learning and just trying to find out how do I feel better? So I use all these different modalities, and transformational games is one of the modalities that I use. And it turned out to be the last one that gave me the last push, the last breakthrough.
The game opened the door for you.
Breakthrough that I needed to start taking steps. I was too fearful, too anxious and too fearful, and that kept me paralyzed. But there's so much information and knowledge that I attained throughout the years about all of this stuff. I can tell you loads. But I wasn't able to really use it because I was paralyzed. Like my nervous system was paralyzed, kept me from moving forward, and I was just frozen. And this transformational game that's called Leela Chakra, the one I facilitate, just gave me that push because somehow it makes you look at the things very clearly. You ask a question and it shows you here. This is what your problem is. This is what you do. This is your solution, right? And once you see that, it's all very personal. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. And then when you go on living your life, it's with you. The life still happens. And there's this old you that wants to contract, be scared, be anxious, freeze. And then there's this new information, this truth that you've seen, and this new way that you now know. And now you're standing in front of the choice. Do you want to keep being stuck here? Which is no. That equals like, it's better. I don't want to sound dramatic, but it's better to die than live like that anymore. And so now there's this new way, which is scary, which is uncomfortable, makes me anxious, makes me all these things. But this is a solution that I know, that I've seen, and I know in my heart because I felt it, that if I go this way, it'll take me somewhere new. I haven't been yet. And that's what happened last year where I first played Leela. I saw these things and oh my God, so many things happened since then. I realized that I had all these talents that I, due to low self-esteem and just not believing in myself and just like putting myself down and abandoning myself all the time, I never got to explore or to bring out into the world. I started TikTok. I certified as a game facilitator, game master, because I thought, oh, I love this. This is something that I love to do. I am learning every time as I am facilitating or guiding, because every time I'm playing, as I was playing with you, it's like looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Every time as you are learning, I am learning. So it's awesome. And I get to help people, and it's incredible to witness that as well. And it's a continuous, lifelong learning process that I'm in now. And so I did that, and I started to move forward with the talents that I felt I have to express. Was very uncomfortable. I was so anxious and scared to start talking. Modeling is one thing. Yeah, I'm used to a camera. Hi.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But to open your mouth and speak your mind is a whole other level.
Yeah.
Acting is very uncomfortable too.
Yeah.
I mean, acting is next level. But then speaking your thoughts, your beliefs, because they're gonna judge, you know? Yeah. That was really scary. But I was consciously, slowly moving into it. And I love TikTok so much because I had an Instagram account, but it was that account that was created by that old Marta who didn't know who she was. And so the community there knew her who didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, it's too scary to start showing up in the way that I want to show up or want to try to show up in front of that community because they know that other person. Yeah. And so I started a TikTok, a whole new community, and I thought, okay, this is going to be my new space where I'm going to show up in a new way.
Wonderful.
And I started TikTok and slowly building it. And every time I love it. For me, it's an exercise platform. Self-esteem exercise, authenticity exercise.
It's so true. Like I would recommend everybody just to get in front of the camera like a couple of times just to overcome this fear. It's so beautiful. You see so many things that you like or absolutely don't like about yourself. You're like, okay, this is how you overcome nervousness. You acknowledge these negative feelings. You get into the process of creating something, bringing an idea to life through like whatever medium, if it's video, right? So you actually said a bunch of things that I really love. You started out with, first of all, you put it in very dramatic words, but I think it's true. Like, I'd rather die than living my unauthentic life anymore, right? So, for example, people that are incredibly obese, they eat, and they don't stop until they go to their doctor, and then they have this like mind-opening moment where they say, "Hey, listen, man, if you continue like this, you're going to be dead in a couple of months, and your kids won't see you anymore." And then you see drastic transformations, and they lose like tons of like excessive fat and become like incredibly fit and healthy. For entrepreneurs, the same thing. Like oftentimes, or high achievers, what like high achievers were studied, and they studied like, is there anything in their physiology that's different, like any different genes or whatever? Like, what is it that makes high achievers? And oftentimes, one of the things is that they were triggered by an event that made it harder to stay in their current situation than to grow out of it. Just like the obese person, realized, okay, I'm going to die if I don't continue to do that. Just like you understood, okay, I'm going to die spiritually if I don't evolve from this. So it's beautiful. And then another thing that I really, really love is that you found something that was kind of like a golden nugget of information. I'm like a golden nugget hunter. Like really, like I had moments in my life where I figure out like this little piece of advice can change your life so drastically, and then you found something, and you want to bring it out to more people and help them in the same way that it helped you. So that is incredible. And so you started this whole journey, and you acknowledge like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff to do, but I'm just more uncomfortable not doing that, which is lovely.
That thing that I found was about, say, 5 years ago. I remember I was living in Bangkok at that time. I remember sitting on a sofa, on a couch in my apartment, and just realizing, I don't remember how, I just remember realizing, because I told you I was exploring everything. And I think I was reading something about self-love. Louise Hay was one of my first, so to speak, teachers. I love her and her teachings. And I suddenly realized that everything starts from self-love. And how I realized it, because I think I try to trace back all my problems to the root of it. Because the problems on the surface, those are like symptoms of a disease, right?
Yeah.
Headache. But what's the cause of the headache? What's the root of your disease, right? So I realized that all these things, all these problems and troubles in my life and my suffering were the symptoms. And I wondered what was the cause. And so I started tracing like, by asking why. I have this problem, but why is this happen? Did this happen? Oh, and why? Each time deeper until the root. And every time, every problem, I found the same root. And it was lack of self-love. And that was a big revelation for me, because I realized, my entire life, I've been focusing on my relationships more than anything in my life. In a way, I think if I haven't, I would be in such a different place career-wise right now. It's not even funny. But because I always prioritize relationships, and relationships have been always such a high priority for me, top priority, I thought that, like, I always said, like, I love love. I love to love. I love all about love, right? And then there, sitting at the sofa, I'm realizing, oh, no, wait. How do I even know what love is, what it feels like, what it means, if I don't know how to love myself? Because by learning to love myself, I learn what it means to love, what it feels being loved, what it means to love someone else. And it was, like that mind-blowing moment. Oh, no. And from then on, it was clear to me, like I could drop everything I'm doing right now and just focus on this one thing.
Yeah.
And that from there, that's the root of the disease. And from there, everything will change. But it's been a journey.
I believe you.
Day.
I believe you. You actually touched upon a point that I find highly interesting, which is, how we behave in relationships, right? I think there's this very romantic approach. We're going to find that one partner, and for that partner, we're willing to do everything, right? I don't believe there's this one perfect person for you. I think there are people that are more or less compatible. But then it's actually like how to love it's a huge thing that we have to learn. And I was in a similar position, just as you, and I put everything into this relationship. I neglected my own needs. If I have a goal, I'm happy to crawl through broken glass, smiling even, just because I know, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to get there. But it's the harm that you do to yourself is not really justified. It really, well, it kind of depends on the relationship, like how much the other person reciprocates in that. But understanding and setting your own boundaries, and as you said, like now I'm kind of, boundaries are also like a symptom, right? Kind of like more in the symptom realm. So you set boundaries and you don't let people overstep them. But what you said is, self-love. So you go to the root of this. And so the question becomes like, okay, if I love myself, if I truly love myself, is the next thing that I'm going to do for this relationship, is it justified? Am I being kind to myself? And by that, I don't mean, you can do stuff for your partner, things that are hard. And, that means love, that means caring and sharing. But if you are diminishing yourself to the point where you're the same person anymore, and it's so hard because as human beings, we cannot not communicate. So even if your partner's in the room, you somehow like the vibe changes a little bit, right? So you kind of adapt to that.
The thing is that's a tricky, sneaky way to receive love from another person because you don't have it inside you. Mm-hmm. So you go on trying to manipulate your way to receiving love, to buy it with gifts or whatever you give to another person, like material things, or whatever. Sacrificing yourself, abandoning yourself, and then if you don't receive it, then you end up bitter and resentful. Oh, I've done all these things for you, and I'm such a giver, and you don't appreciate my giving. It's such a sneaky way, manipulation, and I don't want to mark it as something bad, because when you do it, you don't know that you're doing it, and this is what you know to be love. You just don't know what love really means. But when you do know, you realize that you had no idea before. So you were trying to manipulate your way to buy somehow with all these different currencies to buy love from another person. And when they didn't give you what you sort of paid for, that's when you don't love them anymore.
So I think it's a fine line in between, being there for your partner and not being there for you. And like what you just described basically stems from a feeling of, insufficiency, or having the feeling that you don't receive, that you're not worthy of unconditional love. So you bring conditions into the mix and you say, okay, I'm going to do this and that for this person, because then they're going to love me.
Unconsciously, yes.
Unconsciously. And I mean, many people learn that, to some extent. For example, hey, sit still. If you don't sit still, your parents don't love you because they don't speak to you or whatever, or they scream at you, or don't eat that, behave in the public. There's these social rules that we have to follow. They do make sense, but like these mini traumas can get up to
build
this
up,
point. They
yeah.
build up, and if there's something especially dramatic, you learn like, oh damn, I'm gonna kicked out of my tribe if I don't perform in the way that they want me to. And now we get into this topic of like self-parenting, which you introduced me to, because we have like two drastically different approaches to this, right? So I'm more the rational kind of guy, and also this, as I mentioned before, there's this experiment with high achievers and high performers that most of them had like some traumatic experiences in their life, and they have this feeling of insufficiency, like crippling insufficiency, being not being enough. So they really put all the effort in there to show others that they are, right? So I understood that concept, and it sounds very toxic if you hear it like that. But then also I got to that point, even during or after our conversation, I'm like, do I really want to lose this edge? Because I feel like I was tending towards the direction of, taking pain from the past or taking trouble from the past, use it as fuel to like, overcome it or to get better. Because that's, this fear-driven approach, as we discovered before, it works really well because you're afraid to live your life the way that you lived it before, or you're afraid to die, so you lose weight. So these fear-driven approaches really, like very reliantly kick us into get shit done mode. Now, shifting to a more loving perspective can also happen.
What happened to me?
Yeah.
That's where I was. When as a child you cannot fight or flight, and a very overwhelming chaotic situation is happening to you, you freeze.
Oh yeah.
I froze.
Yeah.
I lost my mother at 18, and I couldn't run from that. I couldn't fight with that. So I froze.
Yeah.
And I'm only coming out of that freeze right now at 37 years old.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And what that freeze did for me, I become so fearful of death that I became fearful of life. And wherever I went, I've traveled, I've worked, I've experienced. And in all that, I never let myself go 100%. Maybe 10%, maybe 20%. But I never let myself go and experience fully. Because I was so scared. Just realized it at 37. That's why I jumped in to swim with sharks.
Yeah. You just told me. Yeah, I just casually swam with some sharks in the Maldives. Like, okay, cool, no biggie. Oh, I am so afraid
They
of
weren't huge. That's why I did it.
But still.
Yeah,
I mean, man, like I'm afraid. Like everything underwater, you're just not equipped. Like, what are you gonna do? Like punch the shark? No, you're gonna it's not the element. I mean, I love running into fear and facing it because you always grow from that. But sometimes you might just get eaten by a shark. So props to you that you.
I took that chance.
Yeah, good. And you're still here. You're still alive.
I'm still here. I stepped on the sea urchin though.
Yeah. That was sea urchins. There's nothing you can do about that. Yeah. So you took some of the island with you, some experiences with you. You grew because you faced one of your fears. Were you afraid of swimming with the sharks, or were you just like, I don't know, some sharks?
Oh my God. One of the biggest irrational fears since I was little. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if I saw it some movie and as a child and I got scared. But as far as I can remember myself, I was so scared of sharks.
Really?
So scared of sharks. Even when I was going in with sharks a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had so much anxiety in my stomach.
Yeah.
I was like, no way I'm letting this anxiety stop me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to experience life fully right now.
How did you feel after, and what did it do with you, this experience of facing?
I was very proud of myself. Every time I do something that's scary, it's like I throw a coin into a piggy bank of self-confidence and self-confidence and inner strength that I built, which I never had. Because when you spend 36 years of your life being fearful and never taking chances, that makes you feel, excuse my French, pretty shitty about yourself. It's pretty shitty about yourself.
Yeah.
It makes you think belief that you're incapable of anything, like you can't do anything, and you're nothing and unworthy of anything.
And now you just swim with sharks. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Love.
That's one of the things that since Leela, and I don't wanna put it all in the whole praise, because it's been a journey. It's been other modalities that I've been using. Been using some psychedelics too, and psychotherapy and other things. But Leela really gave me Leela and this other game, this transformational. There's this entire world of transformational games that exists. That gave me just the push that I needed.
Actually, let's get back to this game real quick, because as I said, I'm a very rational person, right? I have the door open to the to the metaphysical. Let's put it as that, because I truly do think your thoughts are your reality, right? But this game specifically, even if you don't believe in all this like woo-woo and the universe guiding your energies or whatever that might be, there's the value that you can very rationally extract from that is that the questions that this game throws at you, it just shines a very specific light on some of these areas in your life that you
very personal areas.
Very personal, that you've not thought about in a long time. So it just gets your wheel turning about these things that are so deeply rooted within you. And even if you're not a huge believer of like cosmic energy or whatnot, it's this very rational fact alone. It's very interesting. And I mean, we played this game together, and it was very interesting. It was very eye-opening. And actually, I took some, I took a new belief with me from that, something that I'm constantly trying out. So as we spoke before, there's this, energy that you take from like this feeling of insufficiency, which I kind of like wanted to guard, because it's very powerful. It's very powerful, this like fear-driven approach. But then I wanted to, because your topic is self-love, we talked about this, you said you can do the same thing, but it can just come from a place of love, from a place of acceptance, from a place of doing something for you. And I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? How would that sound like? And you just said it's about self-parenting, right? About this like little kid inside of you that was frozen in time through like a traumatic experience that now is acting up when something happens, where you're like, okay, I'm not sure if I can do this. This is not you. This is basically this little kid being afraid. But now this little kid has you. This beautiful person that you have become through your life's experiences with all, like back then you had a limited amount of capabilities. You were in a family construct, but now you are running around life unsupervised. No, grown up is handling you, which is very irresponsible.
You're still alive.
And you're still alive. And you're still alive.
Yeah.
So you have this person to count on. And I now try to, when I have these kind of thoughts, kind of package them up in like, okay, what part of me is afraid right now, and how can I like rephrase this as a self-love kind of thing? So for example, when it comes to working out, I could say to myself, hey, you lazy piece of shit, come on, let's get up, you got to do this.
That's the old voice.
That might be the old voice. And the new voice would be like, hey man, you're doing good for yourself by doing this. Allow yourself to do something good. So the one voice says, hey man, if you don't do this, you won't achieve what you want. And the other voice is saying, hey man, listen, if you do this, you will achieve what you want, right? So it's a slight and tiny shift. And I still have these two energies inside of me, but I'm like now consciously, as you said before, now that I've heard this information, I'm subconsciously or actually consciously applying it because it cannot be unseen. And so far it was interesting just to have this like second opinion on something and maybe draw from two energy poles, the negative and the positive, and then see, how this works over time.
Great to hear. I'm so happy to hear that. That the difference between those two voices is that the first one comes from the judgment and looking down on yourself, constantly kicking yourself in the back to do things. I mean, imagine you have a kid and you talk to him like that. Would you?
Probably not.
Probably.
Depends what that motherfucker did, No, but it does not sound very healthy.
No. Yeah. Would you like somebody to talk to you like that?
Yeah. No.
No.
Really.
So why would you talk to you like that?
Yeah.
Like, why would you allow to talk to you like that?
Well, actually, there are situations where sometimes people are just like lazy or ignorant or whatever, or they just don't want to step out of the comfort zone. And maybe that might be something more male energy related. But there's this expression where you guy friends say, "Don't be a pussy," and not to be degrading to women, but just like don't be, do this thing. Come on, what are you afraid of, basically, right? So ignore this phrase. But what are you afraid of? Come on, let's do it. Don't be lazy. Don't be this fool. Come on, let's do it, right? So they kind of press you into this. And sometimes I think this competitiveness, competitiveness definitely has a place in society, and this male energy has a place in this society because it's ingrained in us.
Oh, it's a completely male society.
So, well, this energy, it's powerful. So leveraging and using that is powerful. So, if I, for example, I can say to my kid, "Hey, Johnny," whatever his name is, you can climb up, you can make it, you can do it. But then sometimes I have conversations with friends, right? And I can tell them like all this like nice bubbly stuff, but sometimes people do need a kick in the ass. It's just true. It's just true. You can just say, "Hey, listen, we can have this conversation 25 more fucking times, but I'm just losing my patience here. Either you do it or we don't have this conversation anymore." Boom, all of a sudden they kick into work mode, they kick into, achieving mode, they do this thing, they realize, okay, now all this bubbly stuff is gone. Now either I do it or I have to face the consequences. So I think both energies do apply. So I would tell my son positive things, but then at some point, if I just see it's pure laziness, I have to teach him, listen, in life, not everything is easy. And you have to understand that if I do this from a place of love. So it's just like a reframed
100%.
sense.
Just the first phrase you said, well, you actually used a piece of shit. So that's what I mean. Like, would you talk to your kid like that?
Okay, a piece of shit is very drastic.
100%. Every emotion, anger, every emotion has a special place in the brain circuit for it in our brain, right? So it's there for a reason. We're supposed to use it as authentic human beings. We're supposed to express ourselves authentically. The difference is how do we communicate that? Because you can say, "Hey, you piece of shit." Pick your ass up and go. Or you can say with the same seriousness that I would really understand that you're not messing with me right now. Like you're very serious and the consequences are coming. But you can still come from a place of love. So it's the way you put it, the way you communicate it.
How would you say that?
It's different.
How would you say, let's say you've been lazy for the last like 3 days and you didn't do your workout regimen or whatever, and you're like, okay, I'm just feeling so cozy in my bed. I could be like, after, even if I have like one cheat day and I over snack, I'm like, man, that was not necessary, and this like feeling of guilt actually builds up. So from a place of love, how would you phrase that? If I would say to myself, "Hey, come on, you piece of shit, let's get up, let's do this. Come on, don't be, you got to do this. It's just a part of life." And how would you reframe?
In what? What's this word? In what situation? Who am I to you? Who you are to me? Who am I speaking to?
You're speaking to yourself. You're speaking to yourself. You slacked on your routine, and you did some negative behaviors that you want to shed, that you don't want to do anymore. You fall back into a pattern that you don't like anymore, and now you have to get yourself out of that. And I might just be, "Hey man, okay, you just fucked up." I would say it's not a big deal, man. Do more positive things than negative things, so it balances itself out. Do more of the good and less of the bad. So if that happens, don't really trash yourself into like, "Oh, you're so miserable. You're like, why would you do that? You're not capable," whatever. I wouldn't go that far because that's very destructive. But I would at some point say, "Hey, man, I feel like a complete pig after having snacks all around me, like eating like all this stuff, like watching a movie, and then the next morning I'd be like, oh, I really have to do this. I really have to feel good again. Like bring positive things to my world." So how would you you snacked, you ate three full ice cream cups, you didn't work out for a week or something.
I've done that many times.
Yeah. So how do you get yourself like into more like healthy mode or
By being compassionate to myself. I can only speak for myself. I am my worst critic. I used to be my worst critic, and I used to be the hardest on myself. Like nobody was as hard on myself as I was on myself. So that self-treatment brought me to the place of what you just described. So for me, to get out of that place, I first needed to understand that, I am not okay, and inquire, well, what is happening? Sometimes I don't know the answer, what is happening. And sometimes I would just allow myself to be not okay for a while. And one of my favorite teachers, my superstar, to whom I'll always be grateful for, Dr. Marta. He's using compassionate inquiry, the method that he's developed throughout his years of practice. Compassionate inquiry is the method that uses inquiries, so to get to the root of why this is happening. Because you're seeing the problem and you're seeing it as a problem, which is already a problem. Oh, you're being lazy. That's judgment. Dr. Mate would start with, what's happening with me right now? What is this food or eating pattern? What good does it do for me? Not what bad does it do for me, which that's what we automatically want to go. Why are you drinking? Judgment. That's the automatic, that's where the mind automatically jumps for everyone.
Yeah.
So how about trying another way? What good does it do for you? So, for example, with food, I realized that I was using food when I was feeling anxious or scared. And that was a lot, especially in the past, since the pandemic and the past couple of years. I've had a major food, like eating disorder.
Welcome to the club. Let's go.
Eating disorder. And in the beginning, I was also judgmental, and I was kind of fighting it, and I was judging myself for it. And then, okay, why? Oh, because I'm feeling anxious. Oh, because nothing's happening. Oh, because this is happening. Because that is happening. Oh, because I'm scared. And I was using food because everything in my life was so out of control, my control. So this food was the only thing that I could control in my life. And I was using it because it gave me a sense of, some power. I have control over my life. I want to eat it, and I will eat it now. So that was my sense of, and that's the good that it did for me. It was serving me as a comfort for a while, until it starts hurting you, right?
So how would you? So for example, I actually had this the last couple of 2-3 days, stressful situations, big decisions that had to be made, changes of surroundings. So I fell back into that, and I noticed it. I didn't go full on crazy as I did in the past years. But yeah, so once you discover that, compassionate inquiry, okay, why are you doing this? I just need to self-soothe myself, maybe I'm emotionally drained, maybe I need something that makes me feel happy, tasty food makes me feel happy. So yeah, that would be the compassionate inquiry. Now, okay, based on that, you can figure out, okay, I have not enough of, emotional, good emotions. Maybe I'm overspending myself, maybe I'm overexhausting myself, spreading myself too thin, doing too many things at the same time. Maybe I have to just be kinder to myself in order to not go and be overwhelmed and overeat, right? So that would be one way. Is there another way to like once you realize, okay, passion inquiry, where does this come from? It's a coping mechanism, but what is this coping mechanism for? So
you inquiry to the root of it until you always come back to your childhood.
Yeah.
And realize, oh, that's the little boy in you who still thinks that he doesn't have another way to deal with this problem that he has. Then you show compassion. It's okay. I understand that you've been doing this because you've been trying to survive and it's been serving you a good purpose, but it hurts you now. And that's where the parent comes in. It's hurting you now. And I think it's time to find another way. But you don't judge. You don't punish. You don't kick and you don't punch. You show compassion because only, that's a quote. That's a quote that Dr. Gaba often says. Only in the presence of compassion can the person open up to see the truth. If you don't see the truth, you don't know what you're dealing with. So once you see the truth, like with the Lila game, when you see it, then you know what you're working with. You cannot unsee it. Yeah. Right? But until you don't know the enemy you're fighting with, you don't know how. You're not going to be able to fix it, heal it.
Okay, so in a practical sense. So if I understand you right, I already had this awareness. Yesterday when I was like in the plane, just eating way too many almonds, whatever. Having another snack. I could have realized, which I did already. Like, okay, this is like one of my coping mechanisms, and now like actionable advice would probably be to understand this, which you've done. And then maybe take a breather, sit down and write this down. This would work for me. Write down, why did this happen? What was the cause of this? And how can I get myself to get this feeling that I get from eating food, for example? How can I cope in a different way? And analyze and like take a breather. Because if you're like inside of the storm, it's, I think, so hard to adjust your behavior on the go because your mental energy might already be drained, right? So that would, for me, be a very, haptic and reasonable approach. Do you have other ways on how to do that?
I think an important step is not to judge yourself in that process, whatever you discover in that process. Yeah. It's very important because whenever the judgment comes in, you close. You're not going to feel safe. And you, the little you that was traumatized and that's doing this. Yeah. It's not the conscious you that's doing this. It's the unconscious that's been traumatized a long time ago, still using this coping mechanism. So first of all, you see it, you understand it, then you show compassion. It's okay. It's okay. I still love you. There's nothing wrong with you. But this thing is hurting you now. And we're going to find another way to deal with this. The compassion thing is the key. You can't, here's what I realized. I'm very, I love to learn. I just like consume this information, everything that's interesting to me. And for a long time, I've been trying to sort of heal by gaining more knowledge, how to do this, how to do that. And then at some point, I hit the wall. I didn't even realize it. Like, okay, I know how to do this. Why am I not doing this? Because the next step after you know how to do this is to actually start feeling. This is a feeling phase. Allow yourself to be. Allow the pain that's been buried to come up. Create a compassionate space for it to be, to come out. Because emotions, they're like waves. They come into your body and they come out. They don't stay with you forever. Now you're happy. 5 minutes later, you'll cry, maybe, right? So they come and go. But if you fight with the emotion, you kind of catch it and you push it down. You're like, nope, I don't want to feel it. Comes in, you're like, nope, I don't want to feel it.
and you push it down. It doesn't go anywhere. It's here. And think about it, how many of those you have collected throughout your life. The more you collect it, the piggy bank is getting full at some point, and then at some point you want to push one more, and it's like, nope, no more space. Now we're going to procrastinate, self-sabotage, eat, go to the lowest of the low, because I'm not doing that what you've been doing your entire life anymore.
Yeah.
Not putting up with your shit anymore. Sorry.
Thank you for it.
And then when you start, you create a compassionate container for yourself.
Yeah.
You allow to unpack, break that piggy bank, and let that all come out by experiencing, living through it. Cry comes and goes. Sad comes and goes. Angry comes and goes. Let it out. Let it be.
So being compassionate, understanding where your behavior comes from, understanding the root cause, being compassionate while acquiring this information, understanding that the negative emotions attached with it are something to be felt rather than pushed away, and then understanding how to get to that outcome that this habit created. You know, for example, if you overeat, you might just want to self-soothe. What other options of self-soothing are there?
Self-soothe myself in a
can
healthy way.
Yeah.
That doesn't hurt me.
Okay. So I think that's already very, very practical. So, you know, something for people to take away. And I really like, I could go on with you and having these conversations for so much longer. And I'm happy to jump on another part sometime soon. Because you really can, you know, you have a way of like, you know, shining light on areas that, you know, usually you don't shine a light on every day. And you have a very interesting and cool approach. And I, you know, really loved our game. I really love our conversations. So people can also experience you. And
welcome
your
to Metamorphosis.
Yeah. So plug yourself. Okay, let's do this. So where can people find you, Marta?
Oh my God, Instagram, TikTok. Starting so many new things now, guys. I'm starting a podcast too.
Oh, yeah.
My own one, which is going to be about self-love and authenticity. All about this stuff, juicy, yummy stuff, warmy, fuzzy.
Oh, yeah.
And but first, right now it's Instagram and TikTok, and I'm building a website. All of that is coming soon. Say,
Metamorphosis, baby.
Metamorphosis, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, welcome to my Instagram and TikTok, and we'll go from there.
Follow her. I'm going to link everything down below. Check it out. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your wise words, for your experience, for everything that you shared.
Thank you for your beautiful questions.
Awesome. Well, I see you next time. We see you guys next time. And until then, good luck with your life and your business creation.